A Trip into the Darkness. Chapter 33. Walking into the kitchen, she looked around and could not find Sophia anywhere. Andres was already seated and had opened a bottle of wine. Mallory sat down beside him and asked, "Where is Sophia?" "I sent her home a little early," he said as he stared at her. Nodding, Mallory picked up her plate and started adding food to it. "Did the witch in the States give you that necklace, Mallory?" he asked her. Mallory almost dropped the plate, but caught herself and placed it on the table in front of her. "Why would you ask me that?" She risked a glance at his face. He looked profoundly serious. "Because I felt it when we were together. I had a feeling that it was magical, but I hadn't realized what it was until you were in my arms." Mallory ground her teeth, trying to figure out what his angle was. Fear went through her that he might try to do something crazy, now that he knew about the amulet. She could feel the coldness of the necklace biting into her skin, and she wondered if the thing had whispered to Andres during their intercourse. She hated the idea of the necklace being involved during their time together. The thing despised happiness and harmony. "And what exactly do you think it is, Andreas?" "It is a very old and evil talisman. I could feel its malice seeping into me while we were touching. Its anger is practically tangible. Is the talisman the reason you think you must go to the Amazon River, Mallory? Are you trying to return it to its maker? Because if you are, that is a very dangerous and stupid idea," Andres said in a stern voice. Mallory tensed as she tried to think of an excuse or a way to steer the conversation away from the necklace. She could feel the thing at her neck, whispering that should kill him before he tried to stop her from leaving. A talisman? That would make sense, she assumed. This whole time she hadn't even considered the amount of thought about what the necklace was or what it might be. If it were enchanted somehow, it would explain why it was able to manipulate her like it did. Taking a drink from her wine, she decided to be as honest as she could with him. "The witch did give it to me, yes. She told me to take it to the Amazons and that the answer to my problems would be there." "The witch lied to you. There is no cure or answer down there. Only danger and despair. If anyone figures out what you are wearing, they will hunt you down and kill you so they can take it for themselves." Well, that's just fucking great, Mallory thought as she took a few bites of her food. If she ever saw Monique again, she was going to slap her for not giving her any more details surrounding the talisman at her throat. She hadn't had any options when she took the thing and would have undoubtedly taken it again if she were to go back in time, but a little warning would have been nice. "I don't know what you want from me, Andres," she growled as frustration went through her. "I want you to promise me that you won't try and leave me to go on a suicide mission," he stated, looking up from her plate. She told the hardest lie in her life. "I won't try and leave you. Now can we please talk about something else?" Mallory asked as she looked back at her plate. In theory, she really hadn't lied because she said she wouldn't try. And she wouldn't be trying to leave him. She was actually going to leave him. There was a difference. "Okay. I will drop the matter for tonight, but we will need to discuss it again," Andres said as he finally picked up his fork and started eating. Nodding, Mallory asked him a question that had been on her mind since she got to the island. "Andres, what is Morgan and Kuro and Nicholas? They aren't vampires, but they aren't humans." Andres nodded, and she could see his shoulders relax. "They are elves. I stretched the truth when I called them immortal because technically they aren't. They do age and die. However, they live an extremely long life before they start aging. Gero, for instance, is about 400 years older than me, and he is just now starting to get gray in his hair. I think he would be considered middle age in his species." "How old is Morgan?" Mallory asked him as she remembered the blonde-haired beauty. "I'm not certain, but she is still very young," he told her as he took another drink from his wine. "Are elves strong?" "Very strong and fast. They can outrun almost every other creature in existence. They're also extremely intelligent, and some have mystical powers that aid them." "What kind of powers?" "Well, for Morgan, for example, can manipulate others' emotions or thoughts, and Nicholas can manipulate fire, making things burn hotter or causing a fire to disappear entirely." Mallory thought about that for a minute. It could be dangerous to have someone working for you that could put thoughts into your head. "How do you know Morgan has never tried to manipulate you?" What she truly wanted to know if he had ever slept with her, but that was none of her business. She had never seen the two of them together, but she seemed well suited for someone like Andres. Her powers don't work as well on immortals, especially powerful ones like me. We can feel her, and it can easily be deflected, Andres stated. He wasn't being arrogant or cocky when he talked about being powerful. He was just stating facts. Mallory nodded. When both of their plates were empty, Mallory stood up to start taking dishes to the sink. Andres also stood and helped her pick up the kitchen. Once it was mostly clean, he bent down and captured her lips with his. She felt lightheaded as he deepened the kiss, and his hands went to her hair. She touched his face and brushed her fingers along the scruff on his cheeks. She was happy he hadn't bothered shaving in the past few days. Breaking the kiss, Mallory looked into his eyes. "Do you want to take a bath with me?" she asked him, and a smile tugged at his lips. He had just taken a shower before they had sex, but she hoped he'd be up for a bath since she was involved. "A bath with you would be lovely, Blue Eyes," he told her. Smiling at him, she said, "Why don't you go start the hot water, and I'll finish loading the dishwasher, then meet you in there." "Are you sure you don't want help?" he asked, a frown pulling at his handsome face. "No. I want you to go start our bath and add bubbles if you can." He looked slightly confused about the bubbles part, but nodded before leaning down to kiss her one last time and then left the kitchen. Mallory's heart was in her throat as she scurried over to the table, grabbing his empty glass of wine to dump the clear liquid from the vial into it. Unscrewing the cap back on, she stuck the empty vial back in the pack of cigarettes and then put the pack back into her pocket. Picking up the bottle of wine, she poured the rest of it into both of their glasses. Walking over to the dishwasher, she pressed start, then made her way to the bedroom, with the wine glasses in hand. Once she got there, she could hear the bath water running, and Andres was just walking out of the bathroom. He smiled at her when he saw her standing just inside the room. Moving towards him, Mallory held out her hand with his glass. Her heart was beating too fast, but she hoped that he would assume it was from her lust and not fear. He took the glass from her, and Mallory raised her own glass to make a toast. "To great sex and bubble baths," she said, and Andres nodded before clinking his glass against hers. They both brought the glasses to their mouth and drank. When they were finished, Mallory took his empty glass from him. Turning around, she felt her eyes start to burn. Sitting the empty wine glasses down on his dresser, she took a deep breath and turned around to face him. His eyes were already starting to droop. "What did you do, Mallory?" he mumbled as he stumbled over to the bed and sat down. "I'm so sorry, Andres, but I must leave. I wish I didn't have to do this, but I have no choice in the matter. I ask that you please just let me go." She didn't know if he heard her or not because he fell on the bed and his eyes slid closed. The tears that she had been holding back started to stream down her face. She was leaving him. Walking over to beside the bed, she bent down and kissed his perfect brow. Going into the bathroom, she shut off the water before turning around. Running upstairs to her room, she grabbed her things and pulled on her socks and Converse shoes. She took one last look at the room before turning around and closing the bedroom door behind her. Mallory went back to his bedroom and found him in the same position, passed out on the bed. She didn't know why she had worried he would have woken up or moved. Pulling out the new journal she had filled with happy poems and a letter for him, she set it on his chest. She wanted to leave him with something positive about her, and she hoped he would forget the ugly things she had written in her old journal. She had already stashed the old journal in her backpack and planned to throw it in the middle of the ocean or perhaps burn it. Opening the drawers in his room, she found the keys to his boat. Putting those in her front pocket, she went to leave, but stopped at the door to look back at him. He was so beautiful. She wished she would have been able to spend one night in his embrace and lay beside him while he slept. Maybe in another life she would meet him again. Mallory turned away and walked to the front of the house. The talisman around her throat could tell they were leaving, and it was filling her body with excitement, urging her to go faster. It had hated the past few days that she had been here and was anxious to leave and be on the road again. Opening the front door, Mallory set out into the night. Andres had said he had security around at night, and she wondered where they were. Running down the island, she finally made it to the run strip without seeing a guard. Climbing onto his boat, she put the key in, but didn't turn it on yet. Looking in her backpack, she pulled out the cell phone Andres had given her. Pulling up maps, she typed in Colombia, and sure enough, the land was exactly 60 miles away. Pressing start on the directions, Mallory finally turned the key to the boat. Remembering how Andres had made it go, she pushed the lever and started to steer. The vessel shot off into the night. She could feel the warm spray of the ocean water flying up around her. It was extremely dark and eerie tonight, nothing like the night she and Andres had gone shopping. The moon was hiding behind clouds, and she could only make out a couple of the stars overhead. It felt vast and scary to be in the middle of the ocean at night by herself, all the things lurking under and on top of the water, watching her, waiting to strike. She gripped the wheel of the boat tighter and glanced at the phone. She was getting close to shore. Once she got to Colombia, she would try and find a car to steal. She was hoping she would have better luck navigating this country than she had in Mexico. She had more experience now, and she wasn't starving, so she felt like luck was on her side. She wished she had taken the time to study Spanish more in depth while she was hiding out on Andres' island, but it was too late now. She also wished she had figured out exactly how many miles away she was from the Amazon River. She was assuming it was at least 3,000 miles away from here, if not more. When she finally started to come up to land, Mallory slowed the boat down to a crawl. There weren't any lights on the land, but she could see trees under the dim light of the sky. Easing the boat to shore, she found she was coming up to the beach. The boat became lodged in sand, and with a curse she turned it off. She was still 20 feet away from the shore, so it looked like she would have to swim the rest of the way. Mallory stood up from the driver's seat and picked up her backpack. She hoped she could keep it above the water because her cigarettes were inside, along with lighters and a few vapes. She dropped the cell phone on the passenger seat before she walked to the edge of the boat and looked out at the murky ocean water. She would not need his phone, even though it would have been nice to have her directions. If she took it, she would run the risk of Andres finding a way to track her. The water was dark and reminded her of ink. Mallory knew she shouldn't have felt fear, but she did. She had just been psyching herself out about the things lurking under the surface. Even if a shark attacked her, her body healed quickly, and she was strong and fast. She would just attack the shark back if it tried to eat her. Her fingers started to throb, and she could feel her claws were already ready to attack if need be. Taking a deep breath, she jumped into the ocean and started swimming towards land. When she made it to the shore, she walked out of the water and felt a moment of regret because her bag was soaked. She would have to stop somewhere and get more cigarettes. Reaching up, she squeezed the water out of her hair and looked around. It was not a populated beach. The woods were close to the sand, and there was no sign of this being a public area. Biting her lips, she started to jog into the woods. The talisman on her neck was cool and seemed to be whispering to her what direction she needed to go. It had done that a lot when she was navigating her way through Mexico. Whenever she was uncertain, she would just listen to the thing wrapped around her neck. The trees started to thin, and she saw lights up ahead. A moment of excitement filled her. She could hear the sounds of cars and wondered if she was close to a highway or something. Exiting the tree line, she found she was on the outskirts of a little town. There were buildings and a few street lights up ahead. As she kept jogging towards the city, she saw a large parking lot. She decided to check there first for an unlocked car with keys in the ignition. She knew it was a long shot, but she had gotten lucky in the past by finding cars with keys in the ignition. After searching all the vehicles, she had no luck. With a sigh, she started walking down the streets at a brisk pace. She wanted to run, but she didn't want to draw unnecessary attention to herself. It was starting to get late, and there weren't too many people out and about. All the businesses she passed were closed until she came up to a gas station. This is it. There are always people and cars at gas stations, she thought as she started crossing the empty street, approaching the station. Goosebumps rose up on her arms, and she had a gut feeling that she was being stalked. Looking around, she couldn't see anyone looking at her, but she felt them. Shit, Mallory thought as she increased her pace to an almost jog. Making it to the gas station, she felt a little safer. She was under the fluorescent light and close to people. Taking another step towards the building, a figure moved out of the shadows and stepped in front of her, and her heart dropped. "Hello, Mallory. You have traveled an awfully long way from home," Troy stated as he stood in front of her. Before she could so much as take a step back, he shot out like a snake and grabbed her around the neck. Pulling her into his body, he pushed a needle into her shoulder, and just like that, she was a caught bird again.